Chapter 16. When we got home that night, Grandpa looked awful. His face was washed out, paler than I'd ever seen it. The trial had probably been harder on him than on me, I thought at the time, because he was worried about me testifying in the most spectacular case in the history of Mississippi. Maybe he'd had some threatening letters because of me, letters he'd kept to himself. There's no telling what some nuts would say to an old man whose grandson might testify on the wrong side of a local murder trial. When we sat down for supper, Grandpa sighed. "I am glad that trial's over, gladder than I've been for anything in a long, long time. Maybe we can finally forget about Emmett Till and that mess up in money." "You think it's over, Grandpa?" I asked. "The trial's the end of it?" "It's over for those two boys, that's for sure. Once you're acquitted of a crime, you can't be tried for it again." "But what about the people who helped them? R.C. Rydell, would he get away with murder?" "Get that out of your head, Hiram." Grandpa's voice sounded strong, even though he looked like a good sneeze would knock him right out of his chair. "Just forget about it. The authorities did a thorough investigation, and there wasn't enough evidence to convict Bryan and Milam. If they'd had a good reason to suspect anyone else, including R.C. Rydell, they would have been after them in a hot minute." "But the paper said Bryan and Milam weren't alone that night." Grandpa slapped the table with his hand. "Damn it all, Hiram, you ought to be smart enough to know newspapers make mistakes. Rumors are always flying around in cases like this, and the lawyers made it clear that those Negro witnesses lacked reliability." "But what if Bryan and Milam are covering for somebody else?" "It's done, Hiram, and believe you me, nobody around here is going to bring up this ugly mess again. It's over. Period." "What about an appeal? Won't Mr. Chatham take it to another court? Can't he keep fighting it, maybe try to go after the other people involved?" I felt bad complaining to Grandpa about the trial after all the worrying he'd done about me, but I couldn't keep quiet about it. "It's just not right, Bryan and Milam getting turned loose. Everybody in that courtroom knew they were guilty. I still can't believe the jury said they weren't." Grandpa's pale face turned pink, and he put both hands flat on the table to keep them steady. "Maybe you didn't know this, son, but in the United States of America, citizens are entitled to a trial by a jury of their peers, and the verdict of the jury stands. It doesn't matter what you or anyone else in that courtroom thought about Bryan and Milam. The jury heard both arguments, considered the evidence, and concluded that those men were innocent. The case is closed, and I don't want to hear another word about it. If you want to keep beating on about that trial, go right ahead, but don't do it around me. It's what your daddy used to do, wear me out about what he thought was right or wrong. Well, Hiram, sometimes boys don't know what's right. Sometimes they've got to trust their elders. 12 adult citizens of the state of Mississippi sat in that courtroom for a full week, and they've given their informed decision." "But what about—" "No buts about it, son. You and I aren't going to talk about this again, and I'd advise you not to talk to anybody around here about it. Our community's suffered enough. It's time for things to get back to normal." We were mad at each other, so we didn't talk much the rest of the meal, and by the time Ruth Ann cleared the dishes, I was itching to get out of there. Grandpa didn't say anything when I told him I was going for a walk. The humid night air pressed on me worse than ever. Sweat trickled down my back before I'd gotten a block away from home. It was after 9 on a Friday night. A few cars passed as I walked to the bridge. Some were packed with kids looking for fun on the first night of a weekend, and seeing them made me wonder what my friends in Tempe were doing, what they'd been doing in the weeks I'd been gone. I was ready to go home, ready to leave Greenwood and Grandpa's house, ready to try to patch things up with Dad. About the only thing I'd miss from Greenwood, actually the only person I'd miss from Greenwood, was Naomi, and I hoped she'd miss me. I walked down Front Street and cut through the back parking lot of the country courthouse. A few cars were there, probably night duty police or county jail guards, and except for those, the lot was empty, quiet, and dark. Halfway across, I saw someone, a man it looked like, step out from the shadows behind a Ford sedan parked close to the courthouse's rear entrance. He flicked a cigarette to the ground when I got closer, and before I could see who he was, he said, "Hey, sis, baby, where you headed so late at night?" R.C. Rydell stepped out of the shadows, and in the light from the corner streetlight, I could see his face was bruised and swollen. Blood was spattered down the front of his t-shirt. I stopped but didn't say anything. He didn't have a knife that I could see. "Hope you ain't looking for my little sister," he said, "'cause I don't think she's going to make your little rendezvous anytime soon." "What are you talking about?" "Come on, Hiram, you think I'm stupid? What kind of big brother would I be if I didn't know my kid sister had herself a boyfriend?" "Where is she, R.C.? What happened?" "Problems at home, our old man." R.C. lit another cigarette, snapped the match at me, and took a long drag. "Pa really was on one tonight. He's been mean before, but tonight he was crazy. Out of control. House is a damn pigsty. Kids don't do a damn thing around here. I work all day to keep a roof over our heads, and what do I get for it? That kind of crap. Naomi knows well enough to steer clear of him while he's been drinking and ranting, and so do I, usually. But tonight he started in on me for being gone, for quitting my job at the dock and going to Jackson. You've been in Jackson? No future around here, and believe me, I didn't mind getting away from Pa. I got me a job in Jackson loading trucks and might start driving one in a year or two. I've been down there almost a month already. Anyway, Pa don't like it, and he kept yelling, "You run out on me, boy." What he means is that he couldn't take my wages no more to buy booze. He really tore into me tonight, hollering, swearing, calling me all kinds of names. I could have took it because I knew he was drunk and that after this weekend I'd be cleared out of here for good. But he pulls out his big old leather belt, starts swinging it around, swearing, coming at me. R.C. was breathing hard now, and even in the shadows I could see the pain on his face. He caught me good a couple times, and I just took it. That made him mad, so he throws the belt down and starts with his fists. R.C.'s voice got faster. Hit me in the face, kicking me, screaming like a crazy man. He popped me in the nose, blood gushed all over, it's probably broke. And that did it. That pulled my trigger, and there was no stopping me. I wailed on Pa like I was some kind of machine, hitting him in the face, left, right, left, pounding him as hard as I could. He was bleeding bad, but I kept at him. That's when Naomi started screaming. She tried to make me stop. I don't know, I can't remember very well, but I think she pulled on my arm or something, and I shoved her out of the way and kept swinging at Pa. Pretty soon he went down like a sack of seed, and I started kicking him, yelling as loud as I could. I swear, Hiram, I felt like all the hate I'd ever had was pouring out of me right onto him. When he stopped moving, stopped swearing, stopped crying, I quit. And that's when I heard Naomi crying and begging me to leave him alone. She wasn't mad or nothing, but awful scared. Maybe scared I'd gone crazy too. I tried talking to her, but she was just crying and crying. So I grabbed my duffel bag and got out of there, out for good. I ain't never going back. Never. You just left Naomi there? What's she going to do? Last I saw her, she was bent over Pa, trying to clean him up. I told her to leave him be. He had it coming, and she knew it. And you know what? It felt good to rip into my old man. The whole time I was pounding him, I wanted to kill him. I was honestly trying to beat him to death. He took a deep, shaky pull on his cigarette. I don't know if I managed it or not, but in case I did, I come down here to let the sheriff know. You told the sheriff you beat up your own dad? Sheriff Smith knows all about Pa. He's known what's been going on since I was a little kid. Soon as I told him, he said he was surprised it hadn't happened sooner and told me to get on the bus to Jackson and never come back. Told me he'd take care of Pa and make sure Naomi's okay. You know, for a lawman, Sheriff Smith's all right. R.C. looked like he'd been through the fight of his life, lost, and was relieved it was finally over. He smiled weakly. I'm going to make it in Jackson, Hiram. Things are going to be different for me. Are you sure the sheriff's not doing anything? How do you know he won't come after you? If he does, he does, R.C. shrugged. I've been in trouble with the law before, and I can take it. But like I said, he knows Pa and what's been going on at home. He said even if I did kill Pa, he'd consider it self-defense or justifiable homicide or something like that. What about all this other stuff? I asked. They just had that big trial in Sumner. Brian and Milam got turned loose. He told me all about that and asked me about that end trouble that happened last month. Said somebody told him I'd been bragging about how I was going to help humble an uppity northern end. He looked at me with a thin smile. I wonder who could have done that. I gulped and took a step back, half expecting R.C. to flatten me, but he just kept talking. Anyway, I told him that Brian and Milam did ask me to help him that night, but when I went home after talking to you, Pa was drunk again, yelling, hitting, same old stuff. That's when I decided I had to get out of here, so I grabbed some things, left home, caught the bus to Jackson, and haven't been back since. But I thought, yeah, you thought I helped kill that Chicago boy. Well, Mr. Sis Baby, I guess I missed my chance. He shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, I could have done it, but I didn't. Like I said, things are going to be different for me now. I'm looking for a change in Jackson. What about Naomi? Where is she? What's she going to do? Naomi's no baby. Living with somebody like Pa makes you pretty tough, Hiram Hilburn, so I ain't worried about my kid's sister. If Pa's dead, maybe she'll stay in the house a while. Or maybe she'll move in with some do-good neighbor. She can come down to Jackson with me if she wants, but I ain't telling her what to do or not to do. She's old enough to figure things out, and I got my own worries. Do you know where she is right now? I want to see her. Help her if I can. R.C. took a last long drag on his cigarette, flicked it out into the parking lot, and picked up the duffel bag near his feet. You didn't hear me, Sis Baby. Only thing Pa ever done for her was make her tough, so she don't need your help or nobody else's. She wants to see you, she'll find you. You could go looking for her, and maybe you'd find her. She's probably at home or at the hospital if Pa made it, but I doubt she's going to be wanting to see anybody right now. Even you." He touched his nose gingerly, then looked up at the sky for a moment before walking past me. "I gotta get to the bus depot. See you around, sis baby."